Should you self-publish? Maybe. Over the last decade, self-publishing has become much more mainstream. The stigma it used to carry has largely faded away. And many traditional published writers are choosing to self-publish instead of staying with their publishers because they make more money. And many people have built successful careers around self-publishing without ever being traditionally published. So, what about you? Should you self-publish, or should you pursue traditional publishing? It's a great question. Welcome, fellow writers, readers, and creators. My name is Mark. I write science fiction, fantasy, and horror. This is The Edge, where I explore writing, world building, and how to enhance your creativity. So, should you self-publish? Well, there are pros and cons. Let's talk about it. Mainstream media and things like selling movie rights are still more tied to traditional publishing than to self-publishing. Things like bestseller lists are geared around traditional publishing. So traditional publishing still has advantages over self-publishing, but self-publishing also has its own advantages. Wow, I hear you say, you just talked all the way around in a circle without answering the question. And I'll say, yeah, I sure did. Give yourself a gold star. Since you caught me, I guess I'll share my thoughts on this subject. And here's my advice. When you finish a book, shop it around to agents and publishers. Start looking in traditional publishing. If any of them pick it up, congratulations, you will be traditionally published. If one or more of them show interest, but ultimately pass on the project, that's a signal that tells you you've got something good, but either it's not quite good enough, or it is good enough, but it just doesn't line up with their needs as well as something else they saw while considering your work. I would take this as a sign that you should self-publish that book. It is good enough to be published. It's just not the one they chose. Definite yes on self-publishing at this point. However, and this is a big, important however, if you shop it around and no one shows any interest, especially if everything that comes back is a form letter rejection, then it is time to face the cold hard truth that your book is not ready to be published yet. For whatever reason, this book is not good enough. The most likely reason is that you're still learning, and not only does the book need more work, but you, as a writer, need more practice and experience to improve your writing skills. My advice, put that book on the shelf and start your next one. This might be hard for some people to hear, but it's the truth, and feeling bad about it won't change it. So let me give you two scenarios to drive home this point. Let's talk about writer A. Writer A finishes their first book. They are so proud to have written a book, so certain this is a masterpiece. And let's face it, they put a lot of work and a lot of energy into it. But for whatever reason, writer A thinks that they are a unique and special butterfly, that their book is perfect, that they're a great writer, and that their first time out, they've nailed it all. But when they show it to people, the people who see it are just not that excited about it. Their writers group tears apart every chapter they review. Friends that ask to read it take months to get through it and offer only vague feedback. Oh, it was fine. Oh, good job. Wow, you did it. And every publisher and agent they show it to rejects it. No thank you. Not interested. I'm afraid I'll have to pass. Now, writer A is appalled. They get angry, resentful, suspicious. They're a literary genius. Apparently, their work is too unique, too genre-breaking, too cutting edge. The other writers in their writing group are just tearing it down because they're jealous. Publishers and agents are just rejecting it because they're greedy, corrupt, part of a dying publishing industry that is too broken to recognize the book's greatness. So unwilling to see this feedback for what it is, and unwilling or unable to see the deficiencies in their own work, writer A self-publishes this book. And on their social media accounts, they change their profile name to published author, writer A, and tell everyone how great they are, how superior, how published. And their book shows up on Amazon. They print copies and push them to friends and family. And unfortunately, the book is genuinely awful. Not just bad, but a laughingstock. It's terrible. The only people who buy it are family and friends, and those people are so embarrassed for this poor sod that they can't even look them in the eyes at parties. And if you looked at it, you'd see that this book is obviously the author's first book. It is poorly written. It has boring, annoying, cardboard characters. It relies on cliches. The plot is a disjointed mess that meanders all over the place without building much tension beyond, dear God, when will this be over? And even at the sentence level, the writing is choppy, monotonous, and full of grammatical errors and typos. But writer A is determined. Despite the feedback and the financial failure, they write another book. And it's the same. It's terrible. They've barely improved. That book is also self-published. It is also a financial failure. And this cycle might rinse and repeat for years. And by the time writer A learns enough to write something good, their reputation is so bad, no one takes them seriously. And they either fail to break in, or they have to use a pen name to distance themselves from these early mistakes. Now let's contrast this with writer B. Writer B has just finished their first book. It's not very good. Why would it be? It's their first book. They've never written a book before, and they don't know what they're doing. They have not yet mastered the art of writing. People they show it to are not excited about it. Their writers group tears apart every chapter they review. Friends and family give them vague, lukewarm feedback, and every publisher and agent they show it to rejects it. No, thank you. Not interested. I'm afraid I'll have to pass. Well, writer B is smart. They get the hint. They put it on the shelf, and they write their second book, working hard to improve the things people pointed out were not working in the first book. And then they write their third book, and so on, and so on. Brandon Sanderson wrote 12 or 13 books before he wrote one good enough to be published. But look at where Brandon is now. Now, eventually, one of writer A's books gets a lot of people excited. It might be their second book, might be their third, might be their fourth, might be their fourth. And if they happen to be someone genuinely talented with the right background and experience, it could even be their first book, but it's probably not. The point is, people love it. Their friends are excited and want more. They've written enough at this point that they have a network of alpha and beta readers who are also excited and enthusiastic about this book. Fellow writers love it and are even a bit jealous, if we're being honest. Then this writer queries publishers and agents, some of whom have seen and rejected their previous work, so they take the time to look more carefully at this author's work. Is it better? Is the writer improving? And some of these publishers, reading this book, looking at the sample chapters, the proposal, whatever, they get excited too. Now, whether this writer chooses to go with traditional publishing or to self-publish, it's pretty obvious that this book, the one it took several tries to get to, is a really good book. And had they gone the same route as writer A, they would never have developed the skills to write this book, the good book, the breakout book. So although their gratification and rewards were delayed, the ultimate outcome was orders of magnitude better than if they'd bullheadedly self-published their really bad practice book or books. Now, which one of these would you like for your future? You can probably figure out which one I would recommend. But at the end of the day, you're responsible for your own work and your own decisions. I'm not your mom. I'm not going to wipe the snot off your nose, and I'm not your dad. I'm not going to go around taking away your phone every time you do something stupid. You're an adult. You do what you want to do. But if you self-publish something and it's horrible, I want you to be warned that I am going to ruthlessly tease you about it, and I am not above a good-fashioned "I told you so." So don't put me in that position. If you made it this far, remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. That's how YouTube knows you got something out of this video, and it really helps the channel. Now, get out there and finish that chapter you've been procrastinating, you prestidigitacious plebeian. I don't know what that means. I bet you don't either, and that's just fine.